because they're prescriptions, so I don't
Yeah.
take them off right away.
Yep. I think I've done that once or twice.
That's why I can't see. Oh, this guy.
No.
Council meeting June 18th, 2003.
You all good now? Perfect. Knock you all set?
Yep.
Alrighty. Let's start this meeting with please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just shut off anyways. Just strikes, thanks, okay, just let. First item, please.
Is roll call. Councilor Garrison?
Present.
Councilor Bickford?
Present.
Councilor Ward?
Here.
Councilor Pesky will be excused tonight. Councilor LaRochelle?
Here.
Councilor Mason?
Here.
Councilor Lunt?
Here.
First item, please.
Under public hearing, a vitrular's license for Corey Maxim, doing business as Core Dogs.
I'd like to open that public hearing. Anybody here for the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close that public hearing. Next item, please.
Is audience participation. At this time, those in the audience who wish to address the council may come forward to address these items or issues that are on the agenda for this meeting. Please use the microphone at the podium and state your name and address for the record.
I'd like to open it for audience participation.
Good evening, Celine Goddard from Lisbon Falls. I had a couple of concerns that I'd like to present to you this evening. The first one, I'm here this evening to voice concerns about, I feel like we are disheartening the townspeople of Lisbon with yet another possible utility rate increase of approximately 25% if this new standpipe/tower is allowed to go forward, this project. I don't feel that the town currently needs another third tower. The taxpayers of Lisbon are already burdened by economically hard times and during one of the worst economies ever. And in addition to that, we also have a reevaluation that's ongoing. In another year or so, we're going to receive another tax increase for that as well. Our water towers are in good general repair, and we're currently making money on the towers with our contractual agreements with T-Mobile and Verizon, and receive stipends in the amount of over $50,000 a year. And we have another 15 years on that, so we should be bringing in $750,000 for those communication towers. And I feel like if and when we do need a tower, the best place to put that would be at the end of Fairbanks Road, which would enable us to gravity feed to the other end of Webster Corner. My second concern is I have concerns about our wellhead protection area and it not being monitored into the best level that we could be monitoring at. And I would like to recommend to this council that the current land that the water tower sits on be gifted to a land trust company to ensure the non-development of property that our precious well sits on and to preserve them. The town of Lisbon could retain mineral rights and rights to water and tower communication contracts to ensure that funds would still be continued to be received to support our water department and help to reduce utility rates. The property would be reserved forever, and I would like to go forward with maybe this council suggestion as to how to go forward and get a petition to get the townspeople of Lisbon interested in putting that in a land trust. And if it, I don't know what your suggestions are or how to make that happen. And I guess I'm coming to you tonight to get your direction because I would like to move forward with that myself and maybe go visit Twyla and see about setting up a petition to do that. That way we'd never have to worry about our wellhead areas, and they would always be safe and for a lifetime. And I think we could just monitor them as we need to, and I think that would be the best interest of this town, and land trust companies are pretty resourceful in making sure the environment stays clean. So those are my suggestions, and I didn't know, do I have to wait till your response till next week to come back, or the next council meeting for your response?
Actually, what we'll probably do is when we get done any of the audience participation, we'll have some
Okay.
response. I mean, some of it we wouldn't have a whole lot of information on.
Right.
But we could actually kind of give
Right.
what we do have.
Perhaps the petition part to go forward with that. All right, thank you.
Larry Fillmore from Lisbon. Why is so much money being diverted to the communication center? In the past 2 years, one position was diverted to the communication and filled, and in the new budget, we are adding another person. Did we have to raise taxes just to increase the size of the communication center? There is approximately $100,000 tax dollars over budget in last year's TIF payment account. TIF payment account. And according to Mr. Eldridge, they budgeted the same this year. That means there's another $100,000. How much more was over budgeted this year? I understand if during audience participation, something is said that the council does not want the people to hear, there will be technical difficulties with the video preventing the people from hearing what was said. Thank you.
Ken?
Ken Wells, or Lisbon Falls. I just want to know, you got an executive session for Miller Industries. What part of that is requiring an executive session?
It's a business economic development discussion we're having. It's private.
Is money being talked about, or I
Yes.
just, well, it's all going to have to come out to the taxpayers sooner or later, right?
When the two parties have an agreement, if they do or come up with an agreement, then it will become public.
Okay, I already know about it anyhow.
Yeah, I know you.
Any other audience participation? Seeing none, we'll close that. Next item, please.
Audience participation response.
Just a couple of things what I have for information that we're actually expand on. I mean, unfortunately, the council's role as far as on the towers is pretty much limited to what the town actually has worked with the water department. Just to go back from where the town, from sitting as chair, where we were at the position with the Route 9 and then the water tower, we were actually placed in a position where we actually had to provide water to Route 9 because of a problem that was found with the water quality. We actually at that time went to the water department and asked for kind of a favor in a sense to work with us to try to resolve that problem. And they had came on board with us and actually looked at some different options, and one of them was the idea of connecting around Upland Road. And that's why at that time we had actually worked with them, and they engineered the project, which had actually been engineered a few times in the past. It was just something they had never been able to complete, but this gave us an opportunity to go out to bond to solve the problem that we had on Route 9. Part of that, sitting through some of the engineering studies, is just getting informed on it. Mentioned that just putting a pipe in alone would not actually finish the project. They would actually have to do something to increase the water pressure in that area to complete it. And part of that was the idea of either putting another water tank in that particular area somewheres in it, or they have to do something to actually finish the project. At that point in time, when the council really didn't get much more involved with the process because it was actually being engineered from the water department, and at the time they were kind of doing us a favor to allow us to take care of that Route 9 project. So when it comes to a lot of the locations and engineering, I do believe, unless the council was actually privy enough to sit through the meetings that the water department have, that it's really been outside of their element. So I mean, when it comes to the idea of location of tower and stuff, there's probably not a lot the council would be able to. We would actually just refer you back to the water department, which I know that you've been really active and pretty much familiar with that. The idea of a land trust, I mean, when it comes to land, when it's with the water department in the town, it's very confusing, to say the least. if you would ask, a couple people who owns land underneath the water tower, I'm not sure if you get the same answer, because it's deeded to the town, but yet it actually is still a asset to the water department. So, I mean, it's really kind of, it's one of those, it's a marriage, yeah. So I'm not really sure how, when it comes down to legalities, who actually owns it, who would actually be able to actually even put it into a trust. I don't really know the logistics of that. I can ask Steve, but I don't, even with the land that we have given in the past to the trust, I mean, that's a lot that goes along with that, and I don't think the idea of the tower or anything that would be, anything working on the site would allow that to happen. But again, that's something I can ask Steve to look into. My background, I would not be able to tell you the answer for that either way, but we can look into it. Definitely, it's, if it's asked, we'll check into it and see if there's any options there, or what the plus and minuses would be to even consider something like that. Legally, I'm not sure if we could do it, even if there was a petition. So, I mean, that's something we'd have to check into. But we would definitely take a look. I mean, that never hurts to look into any options. But when it comes to the project for the water department, we would refer you back to the water department, because they're the ones that really have. Our partnership was with them helping us out on Route 9 to actually try to complete that project to give people the water they needed with the contaminated wells. The second part is when it comes to and we've been down this road quite a few times, when it comes to communication and extra money in the budget, the council's worked through this pretty hard, and I believe the council will actually refer back to the idea there's not a whole lot of extra money anywhere, budgeted anywhere. I mean, it's almost as, I guess it's almost as true as a conspiracy that we turn the volume down during our meetings so people don't hear. I don't think there's anybody here that's part of a conspiracy that does that. If for some reason that does happen, we apologize, but it's nothing. The council comes here and actually has a secret meeting to turn down the volume so people don't hear. So if anybody has any concern of what happens at the meeting, please address the council, and we'd be sure to actually give any answers. I don't think there's anybody up here that is actually trying to not let the town folks know exactly what's happening.
Anybody has any questions about what goes on with the technology, with the camera and the sound, Twyla works on a regular basis with Great Falls. When we have issues, they're the ones who come in. It's not really managed through us. So if we have a sound problem, we bring them in and try to identify what it is, and they work with Twyla and Ryan. So just so you know, if you have questions, you can speak to either one of them.
We do the best we can to try to make sure the quality's good. And I know Twyla works quite hard on that also. And that is it for the response.
We're going to introduce Tracy.
Oh, yes, that would be
I'd
nice.
like to introduce, most of the councilors have met. Yeah, you can come to the front. Our new Economic Development Director, she started on Monday. Her name is Tracy Stuber. She comes to us with some great experiences in downtown development from Waterville. So we're excited about that. And also, she spent a number of years under Roland Miller's guidance, and also brings a marketing background to us. And we're excited to have her here. So she's going to fill a void. But
Thank you and good evening. I just want to let everybody know that I am very excited to be here for the citizens and the community of Lisbon. And I've been touring the area, making mental notes, working with Steve very closely, and anxious to work with council so we can target those areas that need some immediate attention and get the ball rolling. So again, I just want to thank you all for this time.
thank you, Tracy.
Next item, please, Twyla.
Is under the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. Seeing none. Order 2013-74 to approve a vigilance license for Corey Maxim, doing business as Core Dogs, and the minutes of May 21 and 28.
Entertain a motion for that?
I'll make a motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next item, please.
Is under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Order 2013-75, authorization to sell AccuVote machines and black boxes.
And guess our best source of information would be you on this.
Yes, the state of Maine is rolling out their new voting equipment, and we will be receiving it next Tuesday. It's a DS200. It operates similar to the AccuVote machines that you're currently using. The current AccuVote machines are no longer able to be used in the state of Maine, and there is one state, though, in the New England area that still uses this old technology, which is Massachusetts. We have 3 towns in Massachusetts willing to give us some money for our AccuVote machines. We have 4 machines, however. One is not operating correctly, and we were offered to send it back to the company LHS, where we lease it from, or rent it or bought it from, and they are willing to give us $100 for it. So that's our options at this point. We're feeling lucky that we can sell them. So,
Because the buy-in was quite expensive, if I remember right, if you actually, they were,
yes.
yeah.
But realistically, we were one of very few towns in the state of Maine that entered into a verbal agreement with LHS that the money that we paid over time were like a lease payment to purchase. And so in the end, they ended up giving us the other 2 machines.
That's pretty much our options. Besides that, they're pretty much just useless.
LHS will give us $100 each for them, but we can sell them for $200 to 3 towns and make a little extra.
And how many do we have?
We have 4.
We have 4. Is that including the one with the bad battery, or?
Yes,
Okay.
4 with the bad battery.
Now, do you actually need a vote on this to be able to do that?
As long as you authorize Steve and I to sell the equipment, and I think that'd be fine.
Is there anybody on the council that actually has any other opinions or concerns?
Seems like the most
It's
reasonable
town
plan.
property.
Yep.
So we probably
The
want
most
to
we
sell
can
it.
for it.
Now, the money that we
Something for
receive from this, will that go towards leasing the new ones, or, I mean, how's that?
The finance director said that would go into another line, and it would roll over probably into the general fund. We already have money in this year's budget to lease the current equipment, the DS200s.
We're not talking about a substantial amount of money here, so by the time
No.
we're done,
But every dollar counts.
be nice to have the space, probably, right?
It will.
So unless we need an official vote, I don't see any questions from the council that should be able to move forward.
I think you should make it official since it's
Just
town
make it
property.
official? Okay. Entertain a motion to actually sell the AccuVote machines.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Thank you very much. Order passed 6-0.
Thank you, Twyla. Next item, please.
Order 2013-76 is 2013-14 Sewer Department Budget Review.
Ryan will discuss that with you. Walk you
Evening.
through it.
Our goal this year was to actually get the sewer department budget done before the end of June, so that way the finance director would get off my case about entering the numbers into the budget. For whatever reason, we've always try to get here before the end of June, but it doesn't always work out with the municipal budget review and your meetings being filled up. You do have a copy of the proposed budget as well as the proposed revenues, and I can go through revenues or expenses first, whichever you prefer.
Whatever you want to take for a lead, you can start
We'll
wherever
do
you'd
the
like.
revenues first. I presented the actuals as of, actually says 2012-13 actuals. Those are as of basically the beginning of June, so we have one more month's worth of revenues that still haven't hit the books. And the domestic revenue is on par to meet our projected revenues. The last zone we have the bill is the biggest zone. It's roughly $100,000, so we'll be right on target there. The industrial building is going to be, we're looking at maybe another $5,000 coming in, which is why I put the projected revenues for this coming year only at $45,000. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the final flush out of Celotex, and Maine Electronics has been down on what they've been pumping and sending to us. So, and Maine Electronics is essentially the only industrial user we still have left. Our septic income, finance charges are pretty much holding steady, and that's why I projected them out at $11,500. It's basically based on the target of having, again, one more month's worth of income. The septic revenue is way down. We did have a couple septic haulers that one of them went out of business last year, and another one was a major contributor. There was some, I don't know if there was issues with Brunswick, which is where they're located, so they were coming to us on a very regular basis with a significant amount, and they are no longer, or we haven't seen much of them at all this year. So we dropped the septic revenue. I dropped it to 95,000 as a projected amount, and that's based on, as I put in my memo, a proposed rate increase on the septage to 11.5 cents per gallon, which is $115 per 1,000 gallons, which is in line with Lewiston right now, and Brunswick's at 12 cents, so we're trying to stay within the same vicinity as everyone. Amazing enough, last year we went up half a penny on our rate, and we got all kinds of squawking, so I'm interested to see what happens if we go up an actual penny per per gallon. Some of the next ones they were coded to the wrong location, and part of that was we had all these other different lien costs, impact fees, miscellaneous fees, and the lien costs should have been coded to the miscellaneous fees, because that's where we had ended up putting our projected revenues, which is where we'll make that transition this year. But I left that at basically the same, increased it just a little bit based on just the numbers that we have this year. So our total projected revenues with the domestic sewer rate staying the same is $997,500. Proposed operating costs for the budget this year is $897,493. Proposed capital items of $100,000 for a total proposed budget of $997,493. So we're based our projections around our budget as well, but that's significantly less than last year, and that's mostly attributed to the septage revenue that we've seen decline. But I'll say again, the domestic sewer rate, we're proposing to stay the same, which is the one that most people are impacted by. If we jump over to the proposed budget expenses, the one increase you'll notice right up front is the wages, and that's we similar to what we did with transfer station and public works. We eliminated temporary labor, which was $19,000 last year, and we ended up bringing on another full-time person. And that's primarily to assist with our sewer cleaning, which is the next agenda item, the new sewer truck, as well as the storm drain cleaning. So there's going to be more of a dedicated crew to do sewer and storm drains this year. And then that's going to spill over and help with us in the wintertime to have additional bodies to help with the plowing and snow removal. Overtime, I dropped to 20,000 from 26. Pretty much everything else is staying within line. The medical insurance increased quite significantly, actually, for us this year, and that's because there was last year and even before that we didn't have many people that were taking part in the insurance, and this year we've added another full-time person who's taking the insurance, and then we've had some of the people that were replaced over the last couple of years. The newer people have ended up taking on the insurance, so that's the major change there. There's the electricity line I'll just comment on. Historically we budgeted 160,000, and then we went down to 145, and all those were based previously on actuals, and we got down last year to 120, and this year, based on the way that we're operating the facility now, we're down to, we only expended 86,000 as of this month, so we have one more month. I felt comfortable putting it at 95,000 for this year, which is attributed primarily to the staff that's working there, the improvements we've made to the process, and just being able to shut down equipment that was running 24/7 for no real good reason. Keep on going. Any questions from anyone?
Some of that has to be, the idea of the reduction in the septic coming in and some of the other inputs has to reduce the cost a little bit also, right? It's
primarily the way that the treatment plant is being operated now. We had 2 clarifiers that were running all the time, and it was not necessary. We've reduced down to 1 clarifier. We changed one of our blowers, because the blowers are used to generate air in the aeration tanks, which help with the treatment process. And quite frankly, that's because without Celotex anymore, Basin, whatever you want to call it, without any of the industrial users, we just don't have the same kind of wastewater. So we ended up having to this was last year or 2 years ago, we bought a new blower that was smaller because the ones we had were sized for treating a completely different,
Waste, yep.
influent. So that's helped. Because of the way, some other changes that we made, we're only dewatering a couple times a week now, which saves on, that's a significant electrical user. And I'll get down to that next. That by only dewatering, what we've been doing lately, our sludge disposal has gone down too. We left ourselves a little bit of a buffer by staying at 75,000 versus 80,000, but we're still seeing savings in that regard on an annual basis. Most everything else, one increase was the repair and maintenance line, which is our major line for doing our general repair and maintenance of most everything. And that's based on the actuals this year. I'm going to kind of attribute it to we were shorthanded for quite a long time down there, and now we have full staff that is gung-ho, and we've done a lot of stuff this year. And we've had a lot of small things that have grown into big things as we've gotten into them. Just one thing was a generator transfer switch that we lost. That was a significant project that we had to do, but it was, one of those things that you don't have a choice. We did decrease the chemical line from 45,000 to 35,000, and that's primarily to our sludge. Polymer is charged to that line. Polymer is used to make the sludge that we then get rid of, dispose of, and that by not doing it as much, we don't need as much. Get into the capital lines. We've tried to stay within around $100,000 each year for capital improvements. We go up and down varying on what we've got going on. But this year we budgeted $50,000 in equipment, and that's to build with the new truck, we're going to need to have a place to dump it. And the major project that we'll be doing first this summer will be to build a dumping station. So that way we can dump whatever's in the debris body, that's sewer, really wash it out, so then we can go to storm drain cleaning. And that stuff what we vacuum out of the storm drains, we can dump pretty much anywhere because it's just sand and water. But we've got to go make that transition between clean and dirty pipes when we're doing that. And right now we don't have any place to dump a big truck. We also budgeted $50,000 for sewer repairs, and that's good. We don't have anything slated at this point based on where we are with the work that we've been completing this year, but we do have money to do some more camera work budgeted. So once we go to the trouble spots that we identify this year, see what we need to do, then we can pick some spots to do some more sewer repairs. And then the rest of it is just our leases and our bond payment that we have on the Headworks building, which is also the septic receiving station. So with that, again, I recommend that you adopt the budget, the bottom line of $997,493, and set the sewer rate at $5.35 per 100 cubic feet, which is the same as it was last year, and to increase the septage rate to $115 per thousand, 11.5 cents per gallon, whatever way is easier for people to understand.
That's a commercial rating, right?
That is for just the septic haulers that bring the people that pump out septic tanks in town or out of town. I mean, they have to have a place to go, and where our location is really good, and it also is really easy for them to get in and out to do it. So we've got people coming from all over with their septic systems that they've pumped out. So, and again, that's same as Lewiston's and a little bit cheaper than Brunswick's.
Okay. Any questions on the sewer budget as a whole?
Over here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we had a fine from DEP there for
Yes, sir.
22,000, I think it was.
Yes, sir.
So, what's the status of that, and is that budgeted anywhere to pay
That
for
is
that?
budgeted in the professional services line.
Okay, what number is that?
Wait a second. No, wait a minute. Let me back up a minute. It is budgeted in the licenses and fees line, I'm sorry.
Licenses and fees,
Yeah,
okay.
that's why it went from 1,500 to 23,000.
23, okay, right, okay. I
Sorry.
didn't- yeah. All right, so that's budgeted in there, okay, good.
And that is something that we're still negotiating with DEP on. At this point, where our goal is to propose a supplemental environmental project to the DEP, which will allow us to use 85% of that penalty towards a project that we identified to do within the town of Lisbon. So our goal is to try to get something like that approved by the DEP. So, I mean, the sewer department would basically invest $17,000 and change into a project that benefits the community versus shipping $22,000 and change to DEP. So they won't let us do the entire amount here, but if we propose one that they agree to, then we can do, then the $17,000 will get spent right here, and then we'll send the rest to them.
Certainly makes more sense to keep it here if we can, rather than just
That's
give it to
been the
Augusta.
goal. That's been the goal all along.
Any other questions from council?
Question. As far as for the storm drain cleaning, is there anything in place to try to reclaim any of that sand that fills up the storm drains, or is it not really worth it?
It's not really worth saving.
Okay.
But we've got areas in town that we will just dump it to fill in holes,
Okay.
basically.
Any other questions for council?
I have a quick question on, you started to mention the professional services line, and that's about twice what it was.
Yep, the original, we usually budget $10,000 for whatever we need for consultant help. This year, we used some of that money to help with the operation and maintenance plan that we needed to provide for DEP. The other, I should have mentioned that, the other 10,000 is the same, was the other half of the split that we budgeted in the municipal budget under Public Works for the asset management study to evaluate our storm drains, our purchase orders, our work order process, basically to get a good handle on our assets, because we have to start, the stormwater aspect of everything is really kind of pushing us along this way to have a more uniform way of keeping track of what we're doing, where we're doing it, how much we're spending, and yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
And that was actually something you worked with the Public Works, actually split that, because that study was actually consisted of both.
$20,000 was what it was the budget that we received from one of the contractors that we've talked to, and that was split half and half with PW and the sewer department.
Any other questions from council? Are you all ready to take a vote on the budget? So pretty much on entertain a motion to actually accept the budget for $997,493 with a current rate for the users at $5.35 and a change in the commercial or the other rate at 11.5 per gallon. Is that correct?
That's right.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
All those in favor?
Would have passed 6-0.
And while you're up,
Yep.
why don't you go to your next item? Next item, please, Twyla.
Order 2013-77 sewer vacuum truck bid.
First, I'd like to thank the citizens for the small turnout for voting for the sewer vacuum truck. And as the memo I presented, we've looked at all kinds of different options, and we based our original RFP and proposal on the Vactor unit and brand. That is based on our experience with contractor in the state that does a majority of our sewer cleaning and the stuff that we can't handle with our truck, as well as our wet well cleaning and some storm drain work that they had to do for us this year. They all use the Vactor, or they use the Vactor. Communities around the town, around us, there's Lewiston and Auburn both have a Vactor. Brunswick has a VAC-on. We have a VAC-on that we have now that we're looking to replace. And everything is basically right around $300,000. The lowest price we got was from VAC-on at $294,434. And the highest price we received was from Vactor, which was $315,000. The voters did approve a maximum amount of $315,000, and based on the significant investment that we're making and the guys, and I'll point at Steve because it's him and his crew that'll be operating the equipment. Based on their input after looking at all the demonstrations and climbing around in all the vehicles, we recommend purchasing the 2014 Freightliner with a 370 horsepower Cummins chassis for $315,000 to be delivered in October. And the goal, and I'll back up a little bit, something I forgot to mention during the budget part, was we will be seeing, in our existing budget, we will see some lines that we didn't fully expend. One of them being capital line, which was for sewer line work, and that was based on getting the way we did our sewer repairs this year, by not digging and by doing in-place repairs. We saw some significant savings, and my goal is to take those savings and whatever's left in that existing budget and put that money right towards the principal purchase price of this piece of equipment, so that way when we go to get our lease amount, we can drop whatever the total leased amount is, so we can lower our annual payments on that. So that's my goal, and this is something we'll talk about once we get to carry forwards in the next couple of months or whatever, but just wanted to lay that out there.
Any questions from council on the truck?
I was just wondering, the 2014 Freightliner that is the $315,000, is that ready to go when you guys receive it? You can get on the road? Do you have to add anything to it, make any modifications, do
Nope.
anything?
Every single one of these options, they're going to show up, well, other than the extensive training, we'll be able to start using it immediately.
Right.
The other part of this is that I would like to negotiate with whoever if we end up going this way, negotiate with C and Wood on the disposal of our current truck. Hopefully see if they can help us sell it to another company or another city or town, or I don't think they're going to give us a whole lot for trade, so I'd rather see.
It's not even on the road right now, right? It's
It
parked.
will be hopefully by the end of the week. The
Okay.
parts have been ordered and they're here.
Last I knew, it was actually sitting still, so.
It is. It is. Still waiting for a little bushing.
So once we get it back on the road, then it'll have a little resale value.
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, we spent, the shaft we had to buy to get it back on the road was $3,400 direct from the manufacturer. But to fix that and get it back, I mean, not only do we need it till October, but after the fact, I mean, to spend the $4,000 to get it fixed, it's going to return itself when we try to get rid of it. I mean, we have seen some interest from or we've heard of some interest from some surrounding communities, but we'll see. And it actually goes to negotiate a sale.
Any other questions from council? I guess the question I would have is, this isn't coming until October. Is that going to actually hinder us in the idea of doing the cleanup we need prior to winter, or?
Not really. We will, once our truck is fixed, we'll continue with our sewer maintenance like we normally would. And when that comes in October, we'll be able to do some storm drain work. But we have to start adhering to the stormwater permit, which becomes effective July 1. So we have, and that's a 5-year permit.
Okay, so it's not something that
There's
needs to be
stuff-
done.
No, I mean, the whole point was, and that was the whole part of our timing, was to try to get this thing here. I mean, ideally, we wanted to have it here at the beginning of the summer so we could have an entire summer doing sewers and storm drains, but we'll still have plenty of time to do storm drains in October and November. And we won't have to, I mean, it won't be as imperative that we have the dumping station because we will use it primarily for stormwater stuff, and we can still be working on getting the dumping station installed,
And that we should be able to have that completed by October?
I would hope.
You'd hope,
Depending
right?
on what we're
Coming-
Depending on what we come up with for a design.
Any other questions, council? That being said, I'd entertain a motion to accept the bid for the 2014 Freightliner 370 horse chassis. It's a $315,000 purchase to be delivered in October.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
And that was all calculated in this year's budget, so.
Yeah, I mean, I actually looked back, and I think we budgeted a payment based on 325.
Yeah, I thought it was a little high.
I mean, again, I'm back to that, the goal would be to take whatever we have left from this current year's budget and put it right to the principle of that, so we can,
Drop
ideally, I'd
payments.
get down to we're only leasing 220,000.
Perfect. Next item, Twyla.
Order 2013-78, the sewer pipe burst project, East Avenue and Center Streets.
Once again,
Yes, we did have, we have a remaining balance in our sewer repair line of 75,993. The only other section that we had planned to do was this section from East Avenue to Center Street. It's actually kind of one of those cross-country lines. We did put the RFP out, and it's amazing. I just have to put this on our website now, and it gets picked up by, I don't know where, but I can get calls from all over the place. People in Michigan wanted to know about the project. So we did look at, because it is cross-country, not a lot of work in the street, we looked at digging it. We did get a price from a local contractor of about $18,000, which is a couple $1,000s less than the proposal that we received from Ted Berry. But the sewer line is pretty close to a resident's house, and this will be minimal impact by, we'll come in and we'll dig one hole at one end of the project, and then they'll pull, it's a 6-inch line right now, they'll pull an 8-inch pipe through there.
still doesn't make any
Basically.
sense to me, but
And this will be our first experience with pipe bursting. We've done the lining.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple times that we've looked at doing pipe bursting, but this will be our first, and it's a perfect one to do because there's no services. Well, maybe one service, no services. And there's no street work, it's no traffic, and it's the perfect one for us to see, to begin with. So we did receive, the only bid we received was Ted Berry Company in the amount of $20,320. And again, I think based on everything associated with it, we're better off going that route than doing an open trench type of work.
Say somebody bid, you're gonna bid some sort for digging it?
I'm sorry?
Did somebody,
We had looked at, because we didn't know where it was cross-country, not a lot of pavement, we
Right.
didn't know what the price would be to do an open trench. And we did talk to one of the local contractors who gave us a price to do it open trench, and it was $18,000 and change, so it was a couple $1,000s cheaper. But again, with its proximity to a person's house, and it's real close in that area, we wanted to stick with doing the pipe burst and just not disturb, not have to do anything basically, other than dig one hole.
So this is the only bid that actually fit our needs?
This is the only bid we got. Because the RFP that I put out was strictly for pipe bursting.
Okay.
And we didn't put the RFP out until after we looked at a couple alternatives first, to get an idea what the costs were gonna be, and then did the formal RFP process based on the value.
any questions, council?
no, not really.
Is, at the end of the day, is the warranty that we have on the pipe a long-term lifespan of this the same as if we pull that pipe through or actually have it dug and lay another pipe in? I mean, is it the same quality of pipe that they pull through? I mean,
I think it's actually maybe a little thicker wall, because it's a HDPE pipe, it's gonna be the black stuff, right?
It has to be one continuous length of pipe.
one
No
continuous,
joints, no seams, no nothing,
just curious. I mean, it's just one of those things where
yeah.
interesting
But once
stuff.
we get it scheduled, if anybody wants to come see it, because I'm.
Watch it happen, huh?
kinda anxious to see it happen.
The other question I have is, does it actually disrupt services at all for anybody while this is being done?
Part of the price of that was the bypass pumping. There's a couple
Bypass.
different bypass pumping that they'll have to do, and so it shouldn't affect any of the upstream people. They're just gonna pump around the area that they're working.
And that's something that's already been into the
That's
quote?
as part of the proposal. It's $57.50 for the bypass pumping. So, I mean, the actual work itself was only, between the labor and the materials, it was only $14,000.
And what's the length of that project? Maybe it's in here, but, I mean, is that actually something they do with?
It is
Not so much-
310 feet. It's a short.
But I mean, as far as time frame, is that something they can do in any idea of the history as far as that, like a day project or a week project or?
Probably the whole 9 yards. I'm planning around a week, but it'll probably only be a couple, maybe, it's gonna be a day's work. I think they only have the bypass pumping set up for a day.
For a day? That seems pretty quick, yeah.
Yep.
Well, good. No other questions for council? Seeing none, I would entertain that we Make a motion to accept the bid of $20,320 from Ted Berry Company for the sewer pipe bursting and replacement.
I move that we accept Ted Berry's bid of $20,320.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Question, how many more pipes do we have that we are looking into doing this to? I mean, you mentioned earlier.
Oh, we
that
have 35 miles.
35 miles.
Only
I mean,
done.
is this, are we basing this on age of the pipe or the actual area of visual looking at it? to
This
see
is
which-
after cammering. Any areas that we end up having, if we've got to go, if we get called out because there's a plug for any reason, then we'll, we document that. And then when we have Ted Berry come in and do some of the CCTV work for us, where they're basically inspecting the condition of the pipes, then based on their findings, then we're making those repairs. We just did a couple of small point repairs on the cross-country line that we cambered. It was, they're $1,000, $2,000 little short sections where they go in with a piece of pipe, and they do the same thing we did with the full lining project on 196. And they go in and they inflate a patch that adheres to the existing
Right.
and blocking, covers up cracks, holes, and all that stuff. So
So we're just kind of doing this as we go. There is really no set schedule on how we replace these.
no, I
besides
mean, and
the
that's
idea.
part, the ultimate goal is for us to, and that brings up another thing that we wanted to talk about tonight was, we did receive a proposal from Ted Berry to put all the video, historical video that we have, as well as all the video that they've done for us onto into one format, so that way we can keep track of that and tie it to our GIS, as well as the potential asset management project that we're going to do. And we had some money left over in our existing camera line, and we were hoping to do that. It was about $9,000. But I don't know, based on the amount, and to go out to bid for that kind of work where they already did all the camera work for us, a majority of it, and they've got it in-house that they're saving for us on their hard drive. And this is for them to take all the old videos that we've had. So we're looking at doing a sole source purchase there, but don't want you to find out after the fact, so that's why we're bringing it up.
I'm not sure if that's something council wants to entertain now or actually bring back some more information. So, I mean, it's up to you folks. Pretty much what it is to compile all the filming that we've already done into one location.
In one
So we-
format, electronic, digital, so that way it can be tied to a
VHS.
computer system. I mean, it's taking hours of VHS tape and putting it onto a digital format that can be then linked to a software program that we can call up. So if someone calls and wants to know where their service line is in Matthew Street, and if we've got the video of that, we can go into the computer, look up Matthew Street, get a footage off from a manhole to where their service connection is. So if they're digging up to replace, they'll know exactly where it is.
Now, moving forward, is it going to be digital, or is it still going to be come back the same way we
No,
have now?
they're gonna take all our VHS tapes and make them digital. And that's part of that's what they're doing now. I mean, they're gonna take all the stuff that they've done for us over the past 4 or 5 years, more than that now, 5 or 6 years, as well as we've got a bunch of videos from previous vendors that have done some work for us that is not nearly as detailed as what we get from Ted Berry, but at least we've got some inventory that they can put digitally for us to then have everything that we've ever done in the past in one location, in one format, so we can easily search it. And again, like I said, be able to link it to our GIS.
Actually, Ted Berry's the one that does this service. Or
They're the
is
ones that we got the proposal from, because we sat down with them to go over what they've got, what they already have of all our stuff, and then compare with what we've got, on the shelves from the VHS tapes, and that was what they came up with.
Question, us having this on file that quick and easy, does that help us with DEP at all, as far as our maintenance plan at all? I mean, it has to be part of that, right?
Can't hurt.
Yeah,
Say,
yeah. I mean, the idea of pulling out a shoebox of tapes and saying it's here somewhere probably isn't the best way of showing them that we have it on. But, any questions from council on that? I mean, to me, it sounds like it's something we need to move forward with, but.
I understand, just so I understand, when you say you're gonna have it all in one place, that means you'll have it. You won't have to
Yeah,
go back
no,
to
I
them
mean, it'll be
for it.
stored on the server here, or, I mean,
Forever.
they give us a hard drive and we download it when we need
Okay.
to, so it's, Right
this,
now, with their system, it's easier for them to just print out a report and give it to us than it is for us to search through it and find it, because we don't have the most up-to-date software.
and this is existing funds from last year's budget?
Correct. We have in excess of $11,000 in the cammering line, and that was why we thought that that was a good use of that funding, because we didn't have any specific locations that we needed to camera right away.
And that figure was just
9,000.
9,000, yeah. Anybody want to make a motion that we actually move that forward?
I'll make a motion. I'll second it.
Okay, pretty much what we're voting on is the idea of allowing the town to actually get all our videotapes on the digital, so there'll be actually a better source, so we can actually continue to put them on. And that's for 9,000 to the Ted Berry. All those in favor?
And now I'll leave you
Quarter
alone.
past 6:00.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ryan.
Ryan.
Next item, please.
Is ordinance 2013-79 shoreland zoning map and ordinance? Be it hereby ordered that the town council of the town of Lisbon hereby adopts the proposed zoning map along with adding a new division, number 10, entitled Municipal Shoreland Zoning in Article 6, Supplementary District Regulations in Chapter 70, Zoning as presented. First reading, roll call vote required.
You want to address that, Don? Or Amanda?
I have nothing about a sewer. I have no truck. I have nothing.
Thank you.
Not trying to
In
sell
fact,
anything?
I don't think this is going to cost you any money either. What I do have is what you've had before, is the state's mandatory shoreland zoning act requires this municipality, as well as others, to adopt shoreland ordinances consistent with those required by the state. So this, not this council, but the council did this back in 2009 and adopted shoreland regulations. There were a couple of options in doing that, and one is that you could have adopted a separate ordinance or part of the zoning ordinance, or you could have spread it throughout the pertinent sections of the ordinance. And that's what the council chose to do, or whoever developed it chose to spread it all through that. There's a couple of things that didn't happen with that. Although we had a shoreland zoning map officially, it wasn't very good in that it was just part of our regular zoning map and didn't give a lot of detail. I'll turn you over to Amanda in a minute, but when she came and we talked about it, there are opportunities within our shoreland to do more things than we knew we could do. We can develop a general development area or zone within that and district within that. And that helps us a lot with economic development. So there are some requirements that we have several zones or several districts, resource protection being one of them, limited residential, limited commercial, general development, and stream protection, and we're required to have those. So the new map that has been developed is right there, and there are bigger versions, has incorporated that. There are some changes that have been made, particularly where our industrial sections are, and you can read through it and see what they are. We have created an overlay portion of this. The overlay has a lot of verbiage that goes with it. It's required. But what it does do, rather than rewrite everything that we already have, it references what we have spread throughout our ordinance. So now you are able to go to one place, a reference list within this that tells you where you can find all other specific things that are necessary. In addition to that, you'll see some descriptions and charts for those areas. What you might find a little confusing is resource protection. There are actually two kinds of resource protection. One of them is that we already know about, that we have in the town. And the other one is that which is required by this zoning act, by this mandatory act. So we have to have both of those at the moment, and if it's confusing, I apologize, but it is there. to go into detail, to answer any questions you might have, I'll ask Amanda to come up, and she can do a better job than I have about the details.
And before you leave, Don, just to make this clear, that the planning board has been working on this for some time, and there actually has been a public hearing the planning board has put in place.
Yes, it has been forwarded to the council officially after all our process. So, yes. I can move it.
First thing is to kind of clarify that this actually isn't creating really anything new that the town is not already legally has on the books. What it does create is clarification. It shows on the map exactly what water bodies and wetlands are within the jurisdiction of shoreline zoning, which the town already has. We just didn't have a map. It also, the districts that Don alluded to is, besides having those buffer zones around the streams and the water bodies, it's not just a blanket district. You can have different standards. For example, in areas where you have development, you can have standards reduced, so that allows development to come a little bit closer, to be a little bit more dense, versus basically what you have without setting those districts is something that says you're very limited in what you can do in the shoreline district. But in some areas, in the more urban core areas, village areas where you have shoreline zoning, you want to have the flexibility, and the state acknowledges that yes, there are some areas where you might need to have less than 100-foot setback. You might need a 25-foot setback because that's where the development already is. You're not trying to protect a green field. You're trying to acknowledge this is already a built-up area. So that's what this really provides. The map provides clarification. There was a need to provide this extra section, the extra division, to make sure that it was acknowledged that there's an official map. The map is there to show where the district boundaries are within shoreline overlay. The lines on the map aren't something, because of the scale of it, it's really kind of confirmed in the field when you have a specific project, a surveyor or somebody marks the high water line and marks that setback. But this says, okay, these are the areas that are on the map. If there's a stream on your property that's not mapped on here, then it doesn't have the shoreline overlay. Otherwise, we'd have to do a lot of work to try to figure out without the map, well, is the stream in shoreline protection or not? And besides which, the state says we have to have one. So.
And just to clarify, and speaking with Don on this in the past, it's really not a policy to put more restrictions, but actually, if anything, allows more usability and better definition of what the shoreline is, correct?
Having the map will make it hugely much easier for the code enforcement officer to deal with permitting, which we have to do anyway. And it will make it a lot easier for people to understand what development restrictions are and give more flexibility in most cases as to development opportunities, while still protecting the shoreline of the natural resource.
What it was intended to do, right?
Yes.
Any questions for council? Thank you, Amanda. I guess this needs to be a roll call vote. And
Yes.
what I'd do is actually entertain a motion to actually accept the first reading.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Go ahead.
Okay. Counselor Garrison?
Yes.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky is absent. Counselor Ward?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
And Counselor Lund?
Yes.
6 yeas. Order passed.
Next item, please.
Is under other business, the Finance Director's report.
You're up, Jess.
So before you, you have my finance report for the month of May. To summarize revenues for you, May brought in $231,000. This is primarily due to excise tax collection at $155,000. State revenue sharing reflects the $40,000 that I referenced last month. And in the current month, that still needs to be processed. The current month revenue sharing is $117,000, so you'll see an additional $117,000 in next month's report year-to-date. For this month, Public Works brought in $5,600 in yard items, which encompasses your cardboard, paper, metal, etc. and public services brought in 9,000, primarily due to the recreation programs, primarily before school care and the fitness center. The excise tax is just over 97.5% collected, and this is well over where we were last year at 92.9%. I expect us to be slightly above our budget for the end of the fiscal year, maybe around 75,000 or so. State revenue sharing is at 90.7%, which is below last year at 92.3%. And those percentages that I gave you encompass the 117,000 that still needs to be added to your report. With that information, we have received far more in May than we anticipated. The 117,000 is the most we've seen in May in the last 4 years. So that was encouraging news. Year to date, we've collected 744,000. To meet our budget, we only need to collect an additional 76,000, which is close to the average that we've seen over that same 4-year period for the month of June. So we, knock on wood, should come in fairly close to our budget on revenue sharing, which May really took a turn from what I was projecting at the last meeting. I was not expecting to see 117,000 come in. And that is all I have for revenues for you, unless you have some questions for me.
Any questions from council on revenues?
Okay, well, what happens if the state government shuts down due to the budget issues going on there? Does that impact our revenue sharing going forward?
Well, probably not for this budget year. For next year's budget,
How
quite
big an impact
possibly.
would that be?
As it currently stands, I believe the first year we're looking at
$285,000.
$285,000 impact to the budget if it's not vetoed.
Or also, if there is an impasse and the state government shuts down, would they not be collecting revenues, so we wouldn't be getting anything on a monthly basis if there's no budget passed?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
I can find out and.
We need to know that
And let you know.
ASAP.
I can let you know. Any other questions with revenue?
Actually, I have one. The general assistance, I know that's always something we don't see until at the end. The 20,000, do we think we're going to see any of that? I mean, from last year, did we ever get fully paid for last year's?
No.
No. So this is actually, how much of the 20,000 that we budgeted planned on last year did we receive?
In last year's budget,
I'm just as history. Are we
Yep,
actually?
I was just
Are we
gonna say
thinking that we're
in-
going to get any of this, or?
well, in last year's budget from the year before, I believe we saw around $4,500.
45 out of 20,000?
Yes,
So we're not holding our breath in.
I'm not.
Okay.
Moving on to expenses, the total expenditures for the month of May were $573,647. Of this, 59%, or $339,000, was related to personnel services, including your wages, insurance, and benefits. Contractual services made up approximately 17% at $98,000, and this is primarily due to our regular waste disposal fees of $21,000. We had IT service fees of $12,000, revaluation services of $9,000, planner services of $6,000, streetlights of $8,000. We received a bus service invoice of $8,000, and our town building expenses of $17,000, which has par for the course where we pay for our water, natural gas, and electricity and phone. Capital expenditures of $63,000 made up approximately 11% of the total expenditures, and this is primarily due to the road improvement work that was done on Fisher Road. And that is all I have for expenses, unless you have questions for me.
Any questions, council?
One, grants. I know there are a lot of grants on here. Do those get rolled over, or do they have to be spent within that fiscal year?
Typically, they will be rolled over. We have quite a few that will be ending this year.
Any other questions, council? Seeing none? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please, Swam.
Is the town manager's report.
Let's see. Roger and I will be attending a Rail to Trail meeting this Friday with LA. It's something that we've been working on. They have a resolution that they've drawn up. I've got to ask for some editing a little bit on Friday, but we'll bring it before you on July 2nd. They're very excited, and I know our representatives are working with our state government representatives in the DOT and the governor's office to see if we can get some movement on the old rail that doesn't get used. Pan Am, when we spoke to them a month or so ago, they were not interested in doing anything with that, but that's their common statement. But hopefully with Lewiston, Auburn, and Lisbon, and possibly Topsom looking to expand on this trail, we can, this will be a multi-use trail. It won't be paved like the trail we have at the Paper Mill Trail or the Androscoggin River Trail. So hopefully we move on that. As we said earlier, the revenue sharing passed through the legislature. It's sitting in the governor's office, I would imagine. No action's been taken. He has said he would veto it. And if you read the paper, the legislature says it has the 2/3 votes to override it. If that does happen, we'll lose $285,000 this year and $329,000 in revenue sharing next year or the year after. So we'll see what the outcome is. Also, for July 2nd, you have a public hearing coming up on the shoreline zoning and several other things, but I'm going to try to schedule Ryan to come back and talk to you about the Siemens report and the HVAC recommendations that they're making, so you as a council can have discussions with that. And we're also having Nick Knowlton, who's the computer representative from SimQuest, to come speak to you about where we were in technology 5 years ago, where we are today, and what we're looking at for the future, and the costs associated with that and cost savings. Technology moves so quickly, it's hard to keep track of it, and that's why we have people like that. But that should be a pretty interesting workshop. So, also, the steering committee and planning board have scheduled a July 11th workshop with the council. It's a Thursday. It's Amanda and the steering committee will bring all together the data from all 3 public sessions and start looking at long-term, short-term, low-hanging fruit, all the good things that we found, and see how what the goals are for the council and the steering committee and how we're going to move forward with that. And that's all I have.
I have one question. The night that we actually have a discussion with Ryan, Siemens will be here that night.
We can have Siemens here.
I would like a representative from Siemens. That's
Okay.
really hopefully what we paid for them to come in and actually
Yep.
have them
They'll be
actually
here.
give
I'll
us
make sure they're
details.
here. Yep.
Not that Ryan, I mean, I think he still
Well,
needs to
that's
be
Ryan's
here,
thing,
but
that's, no,
Yep.
we can have them here.
it'd be nice for them to, just in
Yep.
case there's any questions.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from council? None? Next item, please.
Water project discussion.
I'll actually take this. A couple of things that I just want to bring to light. One of the discussions that was brought forward during the audience participation was the discussion about the new standpipe or the water tank that's going to be, that's proposed up on Upland Road. And the reason I'm going over this is just to make the public aware so everybody can actually, if they have a concern, to really start paying attention. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the town last year was actually put in a predicament where we actually had to extend the water usage from the town up Route 9. And at that point in time, we worked with the water department to actually connect with a project at Upland Road that actually gave a secondary source of water to Lisbon Falls. Because before we had just one primary source, and if that went down, we wouldn't had limited water in Lisbon Falls. And this is a project that's been planned for years and years, going back a long time. So the water department did work with us and actually had a project engineered to actually complete the project around Upland Road and Route 9. Part of that project, the engineering of it, was to put a primary tank up on Upland Road. We knew initially going into the project that something had to be done for the water pressure in that area to actually be to bring to it be usable. As of right now, we do have water flowing through Upland and Route 9, but the water pressure is a concern, and it actually is low enough that the fire hydrants up in that area could not be used because of lack of water pressure. When the original engineering was done, the location and elevation for a tank was picked in that area. The water department has been actually working on that for a number of years before, and actually the engineer has been working on it to actually come up with the best location. There's a couple things happening right now, and again, I just want to make this public so people can actually be aware and participate. Part of that process is the water department has come to the planning board for their initial site plan review. During this process, it's basically just the water department showing their site plan to the planning board, and the planning board actually going through the process of actually understanding the project and seeing if it actually fits the location, if it actually is suitable. There's a lot of stuff that the planning board does that is kind of comprehensive when it comes to this, and they're looking at all aspects. It did come to the planning board. The planning board did not actually take a vote on it. The planning board is gathering more information. I believe they will be meeting again. Don, help me here. When's the next meeting that you? 27th of this month. Next week. The planning board will be revisiting this and actually going over some of their new information. And I encourage everybody to, and anybody that has any interest on this project, to really come and listen. The planning board does have limited impact on this. They're not really looking at the engineering of the project. They're basically looking at that site to see if that site is suitable for this tank. That is pretty much their role. From this is kind of a first step for the water department. Once the site is actually deemed to be a site that is suitable and available for permitting, the water department will go back and look at the plan and actually take public input. It's still, in the very much the beginning stages of actually getting this in place. So I'm sure that as time moves forward, the water department will have opportunities for more public input. I know there are some concerns about the location of it for the people living in the area, but I think it's really important for everybody to get all the information and try to get it as correct as possible. I sat through quite a few of the informations from the engineers, and it is pretty overwhelming, some of the information that's there. But I was really encouraged that this is a long-term plan, and some of the cost savings over a long period of time seemed real reasonable. But yet, it's still really important for everybody to get all the information they can and be able to make a decision, because part of this, once it goes to the planning department and the water department goes through with the rest of their plan, there's still going to have to be some more public information, because it will go out to bond to be able to complete this project. Part of that will be the idea of it coming back to council, discussing it, because we actually have to vote on the ability for it to go back out to bond. So there's going to be a lot more discussion with this. But if anybody has an interest, I just wanted to actually kind of just go over the details where we're at. At this point, again, the water department is just working with the planning board, a site that actually was located, to see if that site actually meets the requirements, or if it could be done there. And from there, there'll be more discussion. But we'll try to advertise everything that we can. I know the planning board actually does advertise what's happening. I know the water department's been having regular meetings, and if you actually stay tuned, I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunity for public input on this, so everybody can be very aware of what's happening. There's a lot of information out there and a lot to take in, and everybody has their little piece of it, and sometimes it seems kind of spread out, which unfortunately, hopefully, as this goes on, we can bring it all together so everybody's informed of exactly what's going on. But again, I encourage the council to be very much part of that. I know at the last planning board meeting, there was a pretty good group of council members there, and hopefully we stay in tune, so when this does come forward, we'll actually have a good idea of what's happening out there and the feelings of the people that we serve.
And this will have to go for a vote for the public for the bond.
It
so
will,
it'll be
yes.
decided
Yep.
by the community, not any board at the end of the day.
Correct, yeah, at least for the funding part of
For
it.
the funding, when
Yep.
the
Yep.
public doesn't like it, they can shoot it down right there.
The second part of this is actually just on a totally different subject, is the water project discussion. This actually had a couple different sides to it. One is the town is actually started the process with the water department to look at the possibilities of a joint venture being a water sewer district department. It's actually still in the beginning stages. We are going to be meeting, the next meeting is July 1st.
Yep.
I believe it's going to be here. It is a public meeting, so people can come and listen. Our last meeting, we actually just gave the basis of how our meeting is going to be done. There will be someone coming in this Bill, is that from Auburn? to come in to actually, each meeting, we're going to have someone come in from a community that actually has departments similar to what we're looking at, or districts, to give us information. We do offer a little bit of time at the end of the meetings for public input. So we are trying to keep this open and trying to have everybody informed very well of the process. I think it's going to be a good process. I think everybody's going into it with a very open mind on how this could work. So as we move forward, one of the other things we do have open right now for this is we're looking for actually some involvement from people in the town that actually are potential water or sewer users. You can actually go online and actually get an application to stop in the town. It's basically the same application we use for other boards. Pretty much what we're looking for is we haven't set a particular number yet, looking at maybe 2 or 3 people to sit as citizens who actually help us review this and actually have a voting part of how this committee moves forward. So if you do have an interest, please come to the town, go online, download an application. And we did put the deadline, I think it's actually the end of next week, I believe, to actually have those in so we can actually make a decision on who we have. Because coming at that July 1st meeting, we'd like to have it pretty much in place so we can actually move forward. And I will keep the council informed, but every other council is welcome to attend in the meetings and actually offer any input that we have. And that's pretty much where we are with the water projects. Next item, please.
Is the election results?
If you could, Twyla.
Yes. 467 voters turned out. Question 1, to purchase a sewer vacuum truck, passed with a yes vote of 282 and a no 182. Question number 1, to adopt the Lisbon school budget, passed 325 to no 141. And question number 2, on the school, to continue the referendum process to adopt the school budget, yes, passed 375, no 89.
Thank you very much. And what's the percentage? I mean, I think you actually had that somewhere as other voted. 7?
7%.
7%. So it, sometimes it gets a little concerning, but yeah, we had people come out, and we do credit the people that did come out, right?
Yes, we do.
I can take credit for 1% of the voters that actually came out because I threw them out of my house until they voted.
There you go. Next item, please.
Under appointments, Order 2013-80, the health officer. The term to be decided here. I think you currently have a contract. And there's 2 years remaining on the contract to 2015, if your pleasure is to appoint her for the 2-year term. Or in the state statute, you have the ability to appoint her for 3 years.
Steve, you want to give us some information on this?
Since our last health officer retired for years of service, we reached out. There are many requirements that changed for this position. Anybody that was not involved in being a health officer would have to go through training, which involved a lot of hours. Reached out to Auburn. They have a health officer there who actually lives in Lisbon, and asked if they would continue, pick up where our health officer left off. They looked at the contract, they agreed, the fee was $10,000, and this year it's worked out extremely well for them in terms of logistics, and they've agreed not to change the cost. It will stay at the same cost we had. Works out extremely well. So it's a very good relationship. Auburn is very happy with it. We're very happy with it. It's very transparent and it never missed a beat. And she's very, very professional and does a lot. Good job. So I recommend that you appoint her for a 3-year contract, or contract expiring 2015.
I would entertain a motion to accept the idea of the contract that would be the term to the 2015.
I'll make a motion that we appoint her for the remainder of the term expiring in 2015.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
I think that's actually been a win-win for us, actually.
That's been a very strong win-win. It's been a great relationship.
Next item, please, Twyla.
Order 2013-81, the Planning Board, 2 regular members. Applications were received from Curtis Lunt and Don Fellows. Terms expiring June 30th, 2016.
You said Don, guys, does he ever show up? I think he lives here. Every time I come here, you're here, so it has to be. I would entertain a motion to accept the 2 appointments.
I move that we accept both applications from Mr. Fellows and Mr. Lunt.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I should probably abstain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably should.
A couple $100, but.
All right, order passed 5-1.
Don, can I ask, how are we now? Because you actually, are you going to be still full board? Are you-
No, I'm going to need an alternate.
It's 5-0.
You're going to be putting out an application for an alternate?
Yeah.
All right. So if anybody has an interest, this would be the time to advertise that we're looking for an alternate member. Thank you. Next item, please.
Order 2013-82, Board of Assessment Review, 1 member, application from Clyde Cavender, term expiring June 30th, 2016.
Looks like he has the proper background.
Oh, yeah.
The assessor, so I mean, I
Yeah.
can't do better than that. I entertain a motion to accept the application.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Is he already on that board? Is this a
He
re-
was on that board, right?
Who?
Clyde.
Yes,
was-
he is.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is just a reappointment.
It
That's
is a
a
reappointment,
reappointment.
okay. Next item, please.
Order 2013-83, Board of Appeals, 2 members. We have applications from Miriam Morgan Alexander and Sean Carr, term expiring June 30th, 2016.
I move that we accept both applications for Mr. Carr and Ms. Morgan Alexander.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Very busy you are, huh? Thank you. Next item, please.
Order 2013-84, Civil Constables. We have applications for Harry Darling, Harry Gorman, and Paul Popkin, terms expiring June 30th, 2014, and the insurance certificate has been placed on file.
That actually just requires 1 vote.
Yes, it can be.
Entertain the
To
motion.
appoint.
I'll make that motion.
Can I just clarify? We're moving to accept all 3?
To appoint all 3 as civil constables for the town of Lisbon.
Thank you. I'll second the motion.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next item, please.
Order 2013-85, the assessor, William Van Tynen, for a 1-year term.
Steve, you just want to,
Yep, Bill's our contracted assessor, and he will be here hopefully another 2 years unless we choose to extend his contract in that capacity. This is separate from him doing the revaluation. It's a totally separate job, so.
I move that we accept Mr. Van Tynen for the term expiring June 30th, 2014.
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next item, please.
Order 2013-86, the Library Governing Board, 1 member, application from Richard Golden, term expiring June 30th, 2016.
And he's actively serving at this
Yes, he
point.
currently is.
It's a reappointment.
I'll make a motion to accept that.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Order
a good
passed
job, yes.
6-0.
Very good job.
Next item, please.
Order 2013-87, ABCOG Executive Committee, 2 representatives, Counselor Lunt and Stephen Eldridge, who are currently serving.
Anybody else want to do this job?
Big requirements.
Are you enjoying it?
Oh, I'm enjoying it. I'll continue doing it unless somebody else wants it.
Yep. I mean, unless someone
Somebody
has
else
an
wants to take a
opportunity.
try at it, you can.
Yep. Actually, I am
Basically,
actually,
the
I like the
General Assembly-
continuity.
There's a couple of meetings for the General Assembly
Right, it's like,
meetings
yeah.
a year, and I serve on the executive committee, so I attend all their meetings, and so it's not a big commitment, but you get a lot of information, and they do a lot of, it really gives you an education of what AvCog, what we get for our money, which is a pretty good bang for our buck, so.
Mark, if you're actually willing to.
I'm certainly willing to.
Entertain a motion that we actually keep the 2 existing, Council Lutton and Steve Eldridge.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next item, please.
Counselor Communications.
I have several.
You go, girl.
First, I'd like to thank the folks in the back row that came out. It's nice to see a group of citizens come out that are concerned about something. I know all of you have been working together as a neighborhood, And I appreciate that. I appreciate the research that you've done, the time you've spent. I've talked to several of you on the phone. I'm sorry we couldn't give you answers. And as I told you on the phone, the divide with us in the water department is kind of a strained one, and we can't, it's different, and we can't always give you the answers you'd like to hear. So hopefully we can work on that with the water department and with the council, and hopefully we can come to good results. So thank you. I appreciate that group of citizens there coming. We're really happy to have Tracy. I know we announced her earlier, but I happened to sit on the interview committee, and we were very impressed with her resume and what she brings to the table for us. Couple of things that are really near and dear to my heart that we've kind of fallen away on, and hopefully she can bring some of those things back to light. So we're real excited to have her. She was actually at our first Moxie meeting today and had a lot of good suggestions for Moxie. So she'll be taking the wheel on that next year.
Yeah.
Moxie's only 3.5 weeks away. Everything is shaping up quite well. We have things running a little bit differently in some areas this year, but all in all, it will be a great festival like it is every year. And if you have a business or an organization, we'd like you to get involved. We'd like you to be part of the parade. We'd like you to be part of the vendors. Lots of opportunities for businesses and groups to get involved with that. Also, something that's changing this year is the recipe contest. Julie Ann Balmer, who is a Lisbon native, been away for a few years, but she's here at least once or twice a week. She's come back, and she is going to be running the recipe contest. That will be Friday evening instead of Saturday, and she is begging for people to be in the recipe contest. She'd like local folks, and she would like businesses, local celebrities to join in. We have a great list of celebrity judges. Linda Bean's going to be there. Shannon Bissonette, who's an award winner, who actually her product was sponsored at the Emmys a couple years ago. The Yankee Chef, I don't know the Yankee Chef, but supposedly he's a popular guy. He's coming, and I know I'm forgetting somebody, but whoever it is, I'm sorry. Also, Deb Wagner had an opportunity to speak at the Rotary, the Yarmouth Rotary last week, and Deb has kind of taken over the Moxie Festival for us since Scott left, and she is doing a fabulous job. Deb is a PR person from New York City who came and is now a Mainer. We've officially voted her in, and she does a great job with PR. She's gotten us in Yankee Magazine and many, many other Chicago Tribune, and some places like in Texas.
Yep.
Actually, our theme winner is from Texas, so stuff has gone to Texas. So Moxie is becoming a nationwide, if not worldwide, known festival. And Deb is doing a great job. She spoke to the Rotary in Yarmouth, as I said, and they were very impressed with what she's doing here for us. So we should be thankful to have her. But Moxie is a big time for the town of Lisbon, so if there's any way you can get involved, we'd love to have you. Thank you.
That's all?
That's it. Sorry, I know I went on for a while, but that's it.
Anybody else? On this position? All good? You're quiet tonight. That's good? No, just teasing. I just want to.
For it later.
Oh, I bet you will. I just want to add a couple things. And one of the things that was mentioned early in the meeting was the idea of some of the stuff that's happening at the state right now, state level. One of it is the big discussion on state revenue sharing, and which has been really making me nervous since we've been doing the budget. It was actually proposed earlier that the state take away all our revenue sharing to actually balance the state budget, which someone actually said if we do that, they don't have to raise taxes. They don't at the state level, but they would locally, because that would be about a $800,000 roughly.
$820,000 loss in revenue, which is roughly $2 to the mill rate.
Means there would be a drastic increase. We could not cut enough services in town to actually make up that difference, so it would be a drastic increase. I mean, as it is right now with the school budget that's been passed, if we were to lose the 280, is it what- 285, it'd be about another 1.25 increase to our mill rate as we know it. So regardless what they vote on, if it's actually a reduction in our state revenue sharing, you can actually, whatever that reduction is what we're going to be paying more locally. So it's not you don't get rid of taxes, you just move it from one place to the next. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. So it is an interesting discussion. I know at the state level, I would not want to be there because there's no easy answers. So, I mean, it's unfortunately, but one of the downfalls is when you kind of pass it down, it actually just gets paid in a different way. So just if you keep aware of that, because as our tax rate gets set, if this is voted on early enough, which I assume this would be within the next week, I would assume that to have some type of resolve or not resolve or impasse or whatever you want to do.
It's supposed to be out by tomorrow, but that's not going to happen.
At that point in time, I mean, if we do end up with a $280,000 loss in revenues next year, the council is going to have to go back and relook at things. But with our budgets, basically the school budget and our town budget basically passed, it's unfortunately going to probably mean an increase in taxes, because that's basically the only option we have. So when you think of those revenue sharing numbers as they're passing them down, just be thankful that they didn't go along with the governor and actually cut out all the 820,000 or 800 and some odd, because that would have been just devastating. We would have lost services and our taxes still would have went up substantial. Again, it gets me a little nervous, but as we move forward, I guess we'll just have to deal with it, and hopefully they'll make the right decisions. And again, I don't want to pass the buck, because it's a very difficult decision they're making at the state level, because they actually have some major concerns also. I just want to touch base on Moxie. I know it is happening. There's a lot of people getting excited about it. You hear a lot about going on. And as time goes on, it is going to be done a little bit differently this year. So if people want to be involved, I know all the committees actually still have openings to have people come help. There are some interesting things still happening in town. The concerts in the parks will be kicking up. In Moxie, the rec committee has already started doing the movies in the park. So if you hadn't had an opportunity to go down to one of the movies in the park, they are pretty exciting. Get the families out there in the park and sitting on the grass and watch a movie. It's some pretty small town stuff, which is really kind of exciting. One of the things that I heard earlier, and that is going to be really interesting as we move forward. The town is definitely working on a reval. We are still another year out from getting the reval. As a reval comes forward, it doesn't necessarily mean that people's taxes will go up during this reval process. I mean, the end result, we really don't know where we're going to be, but I mean, typically it doesn't result in a lot of actually shifting of taxes. We've had an opportunity in the last couple of years to not be able to control that, but there has been some shifting already. But the reval, hopefully, if anything, will actually just bring to light some of the true values that we have, and not necessarily be done just to raise taxes. It should actually just get us a little bit more. The main goal was to get our reval into an up-to-date format, so we actually have good tools to work with and ability to actually keep track of things moving forward. It wasn't really done necessarily to make people's taxes go up, so hopefully people can work on that, and when we do get the results, it will actually be good. But initially when we worked on the process, the end result typically isn't taxes going up substantially for the consumer. And that's it for me, unless there's something else from the council. Next item, Twyla.
Is Order 2013-88, 89, and 90, executive session, to go into executive session per 1 MRSA Section 405-6D, labor negotiations for the Maine Association of Police, or MAP unit, and Section 405-6D, labor negotiations for the Teamsters, local union number 340, sergeants unit, and Section 405C, economic development, Miller Industries.
And potentially there may be a
There will
vote
be hopefully some decisions.
after, so I mean, we may be in for a while, but some of these may actually come out with a vote this particular time. Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Are we going to go into the...
Order passed, 6-0.
Because we got to come out. And
Yep,
vote.
all right.
Okay, let me turn
Don't forget
the
tomorrow
tape
night,
recorder off.
Chance, come in Muscogin County Building. You'll be giving certificates to LACO for the Spirit of America Award. If you can come, it's at 6:30.